Dear colleagues, members of the public, your candidate, good afternoon. Greetings. Today, the advisory group of experts continues to conduct interviews with candidates for the position of a judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. And our next candidate is Mr. Pavlish Pavlish. He's a member of the Parliament of Ukraine. He's a vice chair of the Verkhovna Rada's Committee on Legal Policy, and he has been admitted to the competitive selection by the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. The interview with Mr. Pavlish will be moderated by the secretary of the advisory group of experts, Mr. Yaroslav Romaniuk, and that's why I'm passing the floor to Mr. Romaniuk. Please, Yaroslav, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pavlo Vasilyevich, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all the members of the public and to all of those who are watching the streaming in our resources. All 6 AG members are present for this interview. The chairman of the AG, Mr. Alex Zalar, is present online. Physically, Miss Hanna Sukhotska, Miss Maureen O'Connor, Miss Natalia Kuznetsova, and Miss Oksana Vasilchenko are present here. Also, there are members and deputies of the AG members are Miss Thomas Griffith, Richard Barrett, Marek Zubik, Vasyl Shakun, Volodymyr Kuzmenko, and me, the secretary of the AG, Yaroslav Romaniuk. Mr. Pavlo Vasilyevich, we have had time to accumulate enough information for the interview. We are grateful to you for the information presented to the AG. And also there are some things that we would like to clarify. Also, we would like to give you this possibility to clarify any doubts regarding your high moral qualities. So the main goal is giving you the opportunity for clarification. I also want to say that in accordance with the methodology, the candidate may not provide information, documents, or other materials during the interview if the advisory group requested their provisions earlier and the candidate did not provide them within the specified period, or if the candidate could have provided them on their own initiative earlier. However, the advisory group may make an exception if it determines that such an exception is justified. I also would like to inform you, Mr. Pavlish, that the interview is being recorded and streamed live on the AGE resources as well as on the website of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. Therefore, I call upon the AGE members and the candidate to limit the use of sensitive data and limited access information on live air. If there is necessity to discuss sensitive data, we will discuss it without streaming online. Dear candidate, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the duration of the interview is approximately 1 hour. So please be laconic and concise. The time limit for responding to a question is 3 minutes. Some members of the AGE are not Ukrainian speaking. I mean our international experts. They are English speaking, so please, in the case of need, you have a headset on the table. Blue light means that Ukrainian simultaneous translation is on. So please use it if needed. At the end of the interview, the candidate may make a short closing statement up to 5 minutes. Now we're ready to start interview with Pavlish Pavlo Vasilovich, a judge of the candidate for the position of a judge of the Constitutional Court. And now I give the floor to reporters.
Thank you, Yaroslav. Welcome, Mr. Pavlish. Is it working? Can you hear me?
Так, дякую, працює дуже гучно.
Yes, everything is working. Everything is okay.
All right, I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you'll keep your answer as brief as possible, we're trying to limit, as you heard, answers to 3 minutes. I'm going to start by talking about your participation in the submission of information to our Secretariat. You, on 3 occasions, delayed submitting your answers to the questions asked by the Commission. Once it was a week-long delay without any justifiable reason. In what way, in your opinion, does this fact comply with the integrity criterion?
Thank you for your question. The matter is the fact that deadlines were too short, and I have my duties to perform as Member of Parliament. That's why I presented my answers when I could. Thank you.
I understand your response, and yet other applicants, other professionals, whether they be judges, they be members of parliament, they be academicians, have all managed within reason to submit the information to us. Okay, I'm going to switch gears now and talk about your assets. In your declaration for 2016, you mentioned that you had $60,000 in cash available to you and another $55,000 lent to third persons. According to the tax service in 1998 through 2016, your total income for before taxes was 708,859 Ukrainian hryvnias. Over the same period, the income of your ex-spouse before taxes was 181,252. However, you also became the owner of a plot of land in Kherson. That was acquired in 2013. A house of 171.9 square meters, also the acquisition in 2015 of a Hyundai i20. 2014, a Subaru Forester, and that was worth 420,800 hryvnia. And the last item here is a boat, a pleasure boat, worth 88,487, and that was acquired in February of 2011. In what way did you and your ex-spouse manage to save money that would explain the cash that you were a claim in 2016?
Дякую за питання.
Thank you. For your question, Ms. Maureen O'Connor, I would like to say that you don't have completely truth information, so this house with the area 171.9 meters square, we didn't purchase it. It was constructed by us, and the construction took place since 2014 to 2017. And all the funds were spent for all these things. These were our savings from parents of my ex-wife and from my parents.
So your explanation then is that it didn't. I don't understand your explanation for the house. Took 3 years to build. Are you saying you borrowed money for that? Yes?
Ні, позику не брав.
No, I didn't. I didn't borrow money.
You mentioned you managed to have $60,000 in cash in 2016, and that was used for this project? Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification. In your declaration of 2022, you included 900,000 hryvnias, $220,000, and 95,000 euros. In your written answers, you mentioned that you received a gift from your father in the amount of the $95,000 euros and the $60,000 gift in dollars to purchase commercial real estate. But you haven't entered into a notarized contract for a donation of funds. You also didn't submit your tax declaration for 2018 and didn't include your father's gift in it. Would an independent citizen of Ukraine be justified to have reasonable doubts about the source of your money, considering your assets far exceed your income and the income of your parents, and have done so from at least 2016?
Дякую.
Thank you for the question. I think that any observer wouldn't have this kind of question because we in Ukraine have a tradition when parents give money to the children as a present, and in most cases there is no deed, no document certified by the notary to testify it. My father is an entrepreneur. He has been working as an entrepreneur, and he had agricultural business. And if we take any person from the agrarian sector of the economy, and if we look at the taxes they paid, I think any person wouldn't have any doubts. Just for you to understand, my father was director and co-owner of private enterprise, and it owned over 8,000 and a half of hectares, and it was one of the biggest taxpayers in the region. The annual amount of taxes was over 50 million hryvnias. Is the first thing. Secondly, my father started working since 1976, and you understand that the tax declarations were not existent back then. I mean, the electronic system of paying taxes. Secondly, the enterprise was paying taxes, but also was financing the school in the village, doing repairs. So it was some social burden. The enterprise performed social responsibilities. My father is a famous, well-known agrarian in the region, in the oblast, and the situation is different than we imagine when a person becomes a member of parliament and the successful development of the enterprise starts. The situation of my father was the contrary. He was working as a director and co-founder of the enterprise before. So I think that a person who knows how the agrarian business works wouldn't have any further questions.
You said that your father gave you funds to buy commercial real estate. Was that purchase accomplished?
Ні, не була зділена.
No, it was not accomplished. I will explain it.
Go right ahead.
Поясню.
Yes, I will explain it. Actually, my father was born in 1955, and he had an understanding that he had to think about the future and about creating some passive income for himself. For that, he wanted to buy some commercial real estate in Skadovsk district. It had to be a mini hotel to receive additional income when he retires. And for that, we were choosing different options. It was before I became member of parliament, and actually the options we had, I didn't like them, and taking into account the current situation, it's good we didn't buy anything because it is still occupied. And the property we would have bought would be lost now, just as the property which is in Vilna village. My parents still have a plot of land there. The house, I am also co-owner of it, but occupiers are staying there now, Russian occupiers.
For what reason didn't you provide the information in response to the AGE's request about the purchase of an office and, I believe, a warehouse in Kherson? In that declaration in 2019 and to 20, only one premises purchased in 2018 for 378,000 hryvnia was indicated. Why didn't you provide data on the remaining transactions?
Справа в тому, що
You know that the city of Kherson is in the area of active hostilities, and every day there is shelling of the Kherson city from 20 to 40 shellings per day. And when I go there to perform my work duties, I only do it when it is required, and going there to get the documents, I didn't consider it to be safe enough, and considering the fact that I am a member of parliament, in current circumstances, I need to be mindful of my duties as a member of parliament, and going to Kherson and find myself under the shelling would be unreasonable. You can see this information in all the data of administrations. It is well-known information that Kherson is under shelling. But it's a general information. I already indicated it in the declaration that I have this property and I didn't have any bad intentions here.
Thank you. Now, according to your declaration in 2018, you bought an office, and that office size was 130 square meters, and you paid the equivalent of $13,700. Is that accurate?
він був не 130, по-моєму, 270.
It was 270 square meters.
Square meters, okay.
Пані Морін, можна?
If I may, I would like to answer. It was a warehouse, according to the documents. It was something between the office and the warehouse because it was in a multi-story building, not in a city center. It was half basement, and it was in such a state that I had to change how it was looking, and I partly I divided this space into office and warehouse, and partly alienated this space, around 68 square meters were left, if I'm not mistaken. It was even before I became the member of the parliament.
So the purchase price was 378,000 hryvnia for this property?
Ну, напевно, я...
Probably I bought it from the bank. It was the property of the bank, and before that it was a collateral property, but then the bank alienated it.
Comparisons of real estate at the time, and we found an advertisement from 2018 of real estate without repair that was sold in that building for $500 per square meter. And at that, you know, my information was it was 130 square meters, so the price would have been realistically $60,000. You're doubling the amount of space to 270,000 square meters, and so that would bring it up to almost double that price, $120,000. How was it possible for you to buy an office with such a low price? And I know that you said it was collateral, and that you did work on it, but what's your justification for the low price?
Thank you. Actually, we were replanning the space. It was not a complete repair. It was the property of the bank, Bank, if I'm not mistaken. It just changed the name at some point, and the bank had this property for some time. It was announced on the website of the bank. There was no auction. They just announced this information on the website, and nobody wanted to buy this property. But then when I saw that the price is acceptable, I made a decision to buy it. So you have the information about the $500 for the square meters, and according to your information, to your calculations, the cost must have been $130,000. But for this kind of property, I think nobody would buy it for this price, because it's not a city center. It's not a business building. It is called an office building, but actually it looks more like a warehouse. It's rather like a basement. It's not a city center. It's at the address Smolenska 61 in Kherson city. It's a residential district. It's a question to the bank why they announced a price like that.
All right, I'm going to now focus on real estate in Kordosivka. In early 2022, before the full-scale invasion, your father issued a power of attorney authorizing you to purchase any movable or immovable property. Based on this power of attorney, you purchased a house and a land plot in the village of Kordosivka near Kyiv. You are currently living in this house. Is that all correct?
Ні, неправильно.
No, it's not correct. Гаразд. I didn't buy the house, and my father bought the plot of land, and it was indeed in the beginning of 2022. And during the following year, he built a residential building where both he and my mother live, and as well as me with my family. There is a basement there, and I already said that when Kyiv is under shelling, as you could see on your own, we spent time there. So it is one. I have a little child who was born a year ago, so I think that for the child it's better to stay there than in the city center if we have such an opportunity.
What's the price of this house, sir?
Я не знаю.
I don't know. My father built it. The price, if he bought it, like if he came and bought it, and construction, you know how it goes on. It requires some works, some materials. It's a question to my father, not to me.
In your written answers, you state the father gave you money for the house. So, what are the circumstances of that?
Я не казав, що батько.
I didn't state that my father gave me money for the house.
You and your father, or you didn't buy an unfinished building in the same area? Because there's a technical data sheet for the house in Kirdosivka, which was issued on the 18th of February in 2022. At the same time, your father purchased a plot January 24th, 2022. That's the plot that you're speaking of. So how did you manage to complete the construction of a house in less than 1 month?
I didn't study it. I need to look at the documents you are speaking about.
So you don't think this information is correct?
Ну, для того, щоб я мог вам
For me to answer this question, I need to look at the document. I cannot say it like that.
будинок був введений в
As far as I remember, we started using this building in May or January 2022.
May or January of 2022. Is that what I just heard you say?
Так.
Yes. And I started living there, actually living there from the month of August 2022.
All right, we'll move on. You know, we've already discussed today the fact that your father gave considerable sums of money to you in 2018. Furthermore, he purchased a house in Kherson in 2020. How was it possible for him to have the money left to buy another house?
Я ж вам уже
I already explained that my father was a big entrepreneur in Kherson Oblast. You can verify it. You can ask any agrarian whether he was there, whether he worked there. It's inaccessible information. He had savings and he used it to buy the property. Ms. Marina Kona, please understand, in Ukraine, people earn money and people can buy something.
In America. Okay, if
Гаразд. За даними з відділу продажів котечного містечка Нова Ходосівка, це котечне містечко, де розташований будинок вашого батька. У лютому 22-го року будинок такої площі, як у нього, коштував $215,000. Перепрошую, гривень.
renovation. Did you help your father renovate the house? When you say it was your father built it, were you part of the labor force?
фінансові ні.
I didn't help him financially.
So you did not contribute anything financially that would require the declaration of these expenditures?
100%.
Absolutely.
Did your parents buy household appliances for the new house?
Яку?
Which kind of household appliances?
Buy all of them if you were building the house, right? Appliances, washing machine, dryer, refrigerator,
Я просто
Oven.
розуміти, що ви маєте на увазі.
I want to understand what you mean to respond correctly to your question. Of course, we were buying different kinds of equipment, of appliances.
You participated in the purchase of finishing the interior of the house?
We, together with my father, went to buy the appliances. Ms. Marinakona, I just don't understand what's the question. Couldn't my father buy the appliances? These are general living circumstances. My father wasn't living in Kiev. Of course, to go somewhere to buy something, I would accompany him, or my wife would accompany him. It's something normal. And if you were in the same situation, your children would help you, I think.
All right, so at this point, your father, your mother, you, your wife, and your children live in that property. Is that accurate?
100%, якщо
100%. If you want, I can invite you. You can come and check.
No need. Okay, I want to shift focus on an automobile. According to your declaration on February 11th of 2022, you started using an Audi Q7 car, 2019 manufacture date, and it's owned by your cousin. The car was purchased on the same date, February 11th, 2022. Does it mean that your cousin transferred the car to you on the very day of its purchase?
а чого ви
Why you decided that on the 11th of February I started to use this car, and in the same day she transferred it to me? Why you made such a conclusion?
Your declaration says that on February 11th, 2022, you started using this automobile. And the car was purchased on the same day, February 11th, 2022.
Ні, в декларації зазначено,
No, in declaration it is written that I used the car that was bought on that date. So this is the date of registration. It's not the date when I started to use the automobile. Because as I use it, I have to put it into the declaration so that I use it more than 180 days per year.
What date did you start using this Audi Q7?
As for its necessity of its declaration, since the full-scale invasion, when the war started, so my sister asked me to save, to preserve this automobile. They moved to Poland, and they live in Poland. They took another car, and this car they left here in Ukraine, and after they wanted to alienate it. That's why they provided me with the power of attorney for the alienation of the car, but it's not the attorney for me, it was the power of attorney for my father-in-law, Mr. Grabowski. That's why I used this car almost constantly since February 2022, and in 2021, as you have stated in your inquiry, I used this car once or twice.
So you use the car now as your primary vehicle?
саме так. Ми з сестрою, так, саме так.
Yes. We like stated with my... Can I finish, please? So with my cousin, we wanted to sell it. They wanted to sell it. They like put an advertisement. They asked to put to Alexander Dominikovich, that is the father-in-law, and because he had power of attorney. And as my Mercedes-Benz was sold in the end of the 2021, so we agreed that when they return from Poland, I will buy this automobile from them. Or for example, if they need money, they will come and we will make this purchase agreement.
So just so I understand, your father-in-law has a power of attorney or your cousin's father-in-law? Which is it?
Ні, це мій тесть.
My father-in-law.
Моєї двоюрідної сестри
My cousin doesn't have her father-in-law in Kiev. And power of attorney was given for potential sale, and the power of attorney was given just to alienate this car.
As to why you didn't retain a power of attorney since you are the primary user of the car.
To use the automobile, I don't need to have power of attorney. It's enough just to have the technical passport of the car. The power of attorney is needed just for the sale of the car. As I am a public person, I'm a member of parliament, I can't be a seller of such. So for me it was unacceptable to sell such an automobile, not to be posed the question, why do I sell other cars? That's why I said that I cannot take the power of attorney on behalf of me.
In your written responses, you stated that your cousin purchased this car from a company which had bought it at an auction in the United States and was supposed to repair it and hand it over to your cousin, which they had agreed upon in 2021. And was that accomplished? Did that take place?
No, not completely, because this car has some technical disadvantages, and from time to time they are related to some electronic parts, and sometimes they arise, these technical issues, because on the front panel there is indicator of, it is called check engine or something like this, so there is one indicator that from time to time it gets lit, and so this disadvantage remained, and there are also some other faults.
Okay, so the car was not fully repaired when it was sold to your cousin.
ну, напевно, так.
Maybe yes, it sounds like this.
Do we understand correctly that DSD Trade Ukraine was the company that owned the car earlier? They brought it to Ukraine and they were responsible for the repairs to the automobile?
Я не знаю.
I don't know these circumstances because I wasn't in charge in 2021 of negotiations and so on about this car. It wasn't interesting for me. I had some other tasks.
You're familiar with DSD Trade Ukraine, the business?
Ні.
No?
No.
Since the vehicle was brought to Ukraine in June of 21, it's been owned by three companies, LK Agro, Neont Ltd, and DSD Trade Ukraine. And all of these companies do not import or bring cars as their main business. Their main business is growing grain and trading in food products. According to the prosecutor's office, all three companies are controlled by Yuri Kovalyov, a member of the Kherson Regional Council from the pro-presidential servant of the party, People Party, who on November 22nd, 2023, was served with a suspicion on collaboration and high treason by the Kherson Regional Prosecutor's Office. Do you know these gentlemen?
Юрій,
Yuri Kovalov? Everybody knows him in Kherson region.
His brother, Oleski?
він був
He was member of parliament, and he also performed a treason, and he was killed in 2022. So he passed away in 2022.
You were familiar with him.
Ну, звісно.
Yes, sure.
You'd been practicing law for a long time in Kherson, and in particular representing the interest of agricultural businesses. Did you represent any of these agricultural businesses that I mentioned? LK Agro, Neont Ltd. You've already said you don't know DSD Trade Ukraine. What about the other two?
Жодного.
No, no one time.
Thank you. Did you have any agreements with Yuri Kovalev about this car? All right. All right, your cousin purchased the car for $13,675, which is 300 hryvnias. While the price of the car in dollars at auction was $19,200, without repairs, delivery, customs, clearance, and auction fees. There's a difference of $6,000 almost. Do you have any knowledge of why the purchase and the declaration numbers are not the same?
Я жодним чином не
I can't explain it because I didn't purchase this automobile. I didn't deliver it to Ukraine.
In your opinion, could an independent observer have the impression that this car purchased below the auction price from a company that does not sell or repair cars, you're saying that it had absolutely nothing to do with you? The relationship, purchase of the car, the companies, or your cousin's decision-making here. Is that a fair statement?
Но
Yes, but I think that the external observer cannot perceive it like this because this car isn't mine and my cousin can come and take this car, but we already agreed that I will buy it from her.
I understand.
і тут ви ж розумієте, що
And also you understand that like to arise such thoughts and doubts in an external observer, at first we should ask for what? Like what was the reason for giving me such a benefit? I haven't done anything for this company that you mentioned, so this company couldn't express like such a gratitude to me.
Thank you. I'm going to request that we stop streaming. I have two questions that I'd like to ask, and I would like to respect the privacy of the applicant. Any objections?
Пані O'Connor, я попрошу.
Miss O'Connor, I have a couple of complimentary questions about this blog, so can we discuss it?
Okay, we can visit those, and then I'll move on. Go ahead.
Павло Васильович,
Mr. Pavlo Vasilyevich, we are on the stage of integrity check. The characteristics of integrity are openness, honesty, impeccable behavior in private and professional life. You said that to give a gift of funds in family and there is no need to stipulate agreements, written agreements, and do it. But how do you think whether it follows the requirements? I mean, openness, impeccable behavior for a person who submits his candidacy for such a high position as a judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. Mr. Yaroslav Mikhailovich, I think that for an external observer, the question of the gift of the funds from the father to the child is quite a normal event, is quite an ordinary event. I can't see any strange here. That's why such questions that we should have gone to notary. Yes, if I had been a public person at that period, if I had occupied a position, or maybe if I had been a member of parliament, maybe we would have done it. Like not to have questions like from your side or so on. But at that period, I was a person without any state position. My father also was an entrepreneur without any state business, and all the life before me becoming the member of parliament, I have never occupied any state position, so there was no need. And I have very trustful relationship with my father, so there are no any apprehensions in this regard. Okay, your answer is accepted. Mr. Pavlo Vasilyevich, from the very beginning, we explained to you the goal of this interview. Like, we would like to give you an opportunity to clarify our potential doubts about your integrity. So this is your interest. We had some evidence-based doubts. You say that your father had relevant funds, relevant income, and he could afford it for himself. But tell us, please, why you didn't try to convince us with some documents, for example, to have a document about the income of your father to convince us that he had such an opportunity, such an income, that these are his real legal income and not your maybe corruptional, non-professional income. Thank you so much for your question, Mr. Yaroslav Mikhailovich. I would like to say that tax return for my father, by my father, have been presented by me, and also I have already said to the AGE members and deputies that in Ukraine, electronic taxation accountability is only from 1991. In 1994, 1995, when there was limited liability company or something like this, only for 1 year he had 500,000 tons of grain, which was sold. So you can count the currency exchange rate. And frankly speaking, it's not my father who submits his candidacy for a judge of the Constitutional Court. I submit my candidacy. And frankly speaking, as I see it in my vision as legislator, such check for 20, 30 years that you ask for the candidates, well, we are not looking for judges in anti-corruption judge. A judge of the Constitutional Court should have impeccable reputation. Yes, Mr. Pavlo Vasilyevich, thank you for your answer. Yes, I asked my father. He presented me all the information he had. If it is needed, we can ask him to come here, him, my children, etc. Well, we gave you opportunity to clarify it. I presented you all the documents. Another question. In 2018, as you say, your father gave you 95,000 euro and $60,000 for buying and purchase of commercial property. So you said that you bought 270 square meters for $16,500. It was another case. You say that your father for 20 years was a very well-known agrarian and he was a head. And can we say that your father didn't know about the prices and he gave you one sum and you used much less money to purchase it? I will explain you. I have already talked about it. Mr. Yaroslav Mikhailovich, I have already said that there were plans to have a passive income, to have a small hotel or something like this at the seaside. The property I bought in 2018, it wasn't attributed to our agreement with my father. It was a proposal that I used. It was a suggestion that I used. So this is not about the targets that were followed by my father, giving me such funds. Also, your father bought in Khodosivka this plot on the 24th of January 2022, and on the 18th of February 2023 there was issued technical passport for this property. How you managed to repair and to commission properly this house for quite a short period? Well, technical passport was issued in May. Here it is written that it will be that here it was the 18th of February. Okay, but even if we take the May, it was so fast. You understand that for technical passport issuance, the house shouldn't be just completed. The only main communications have to be laid. And it was finished, this house, in August. And only after the August, so it wasn't finished completely, but it was able to live there. Okay, thank you so much. Now we can pass to the next block of...
Ще запитання, будь ласка.
One more question that your questions have provoked. You're constantly saying that your father earned a lot of money and he was the source of money for you to borrow, maybe gift, and then for you to use for his benefit. However, there's no proof of his income, we couldn't find any, before 1998. Also, his highest annual income was in 2011 of the records that we've found, and that was around 56,000 US dollars. Half of that income was the price of his inherited land that he did not sell. So he inherited land at that time. It means that, in fact, his income for 2011 was lower. That their lifestyle does not reflect the income that has been able to be identified since 1998. Do you have a comment on that?
Ну, я вже
I already talked about it. Thank you for the question. In any case, tax returns were not filed back then because he started his entrepreneurial activity in 1976. And my father is not obliged to explain me how and where he earns money. We always had different kinds of work, of businesses. I was working in legal business, he was working in agrarian business, and when you worked for your whole life on managing leading positions and then you get asked where you got the money, he explained me that he was acting as an entrepreneur, he was paying taxes. In any case, it's his activity and it was known. His enterprise was undergoing tax verifications. Nobody had this kind of questions. Thank you. Can we ask the questions about the private life of the candidate?
We will stop the streaming. Next, I'd like to draw your attention to the purchase of an Infiniti QX50 2019 car. In 2020, your father-in-law purchased a 2019 Infiniti QX car, and your wife uses that car. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
What money was used to purchase the car?
Я в поясненнях
I indicated that he sold an apartment, but it's from the words of my wife and the father-in-law, because back then we were not married yet.
Do you use the Infiniti car?
зараз
Now?
Yes. You're still in possession of it. So do you use the car?
Дружина використовує
My wife uses this car.
In 2021, you had this car included in the list of vehicles that may enter the Verkhovna Rada territory. For what reason did you include the car on the list?
So that this car is able to enter the territory of the Verkhovna Rada. Because when the assistant was going to the work, she was using this car. And I was living at Institutska 24/7, and Yaroslav Mikhailovich probably knows it's right next to the National Hotel. It takes 3 minutes to go to the Verkhovna Rada, and I didn't need this car. So, plus, to answer the question you asked, why I didn't include my car in the list, I would like to mention that a member of parliament goes to the territory of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine using their certificate, the identification card we have. I can just show it and enter the territory of the Verkhovna Rada. At the same time, the assistants, for them to be able to enter the same territory, they should use letters from the members of parliament. It's general practice. I just wanted to explain why my car was not in the list. Mr. Pavlo, I am the advisor to the head of the Parliament of Ukraine, and every time when I need to go to Mr. Stefanchuk, I have to get a separate permit to enter this territory. Your assistant was using the rights that are only granted to the deputies, to the members of Parliament. What's your relation to that?
I would say that we have, like our practice, that we have special tickets how we enter, and maybe the advisors have other rules, but assistants have these rules that I have explained. Maybe now, during the martial law, now the rules became more severe for the advisors. So you said that you this permit made for yourself or for your assistants? Oh, so this is permit for this vehicle for yourself or for your assistant? For assistants, all members of parliament do like this. For their assistants, they provide such permits for those assistants who have cars. This is a general practice. Mr. Pavlo Vasilovich, whether the National Agency on Corruption Prevention controlled your declaration? Yes, for the year 2020. And what are the results? I presented the conclusion from the National Agency on Corruption Prevention. There were some concerns that were eliminated by me in 2023 or 2024, because from the very beginning I couldn't address these issues because of the full-scale invasion, and I had term up to 8th of March, but the war started, and then I wrote a letter and I asked to prolong this term. So there were some issues that have been corrected. As for our information, as for the control of your declaration, sources, it is written that the assets excess the incomes for the sum $250,000. Was this concerning? No, this concern wasn't written in the conclusion about the full check of the declaration. It was written that for 29,000 hryvnias I exceeded the price for the automobile Mercedes-Benz. This conclusion was presented for the esteemed AGE, and it was stated that no other violations were detected by the National Agency on Corruption Prevention. So this conclusion was done not after the full check, but after the specialized check. Do you know about this conclusion? Well, when I was posed questions, the AG wrote me about it, because I didn't have this conclusion from the NAZK. And how can you explain such discrepancies? So these questions should be asked to the National Agency to Corruption Prevention. So you are against? Yes, I reject it. I think that everything is good with my declaration. Are there any other questions, Ms. O'Connor?
Very much.
Чи запитання в залі?
Any other questions? Deputies? I have a small question. Mr. Pavlo Vasilyevich, are you aware of the fact that if you are chosen as the judge of the Constitutional Court, you will have to change cardinally your lifestyle? I mean, partially to refuse from diving abroad, to have more modest lifestyle. Because nowadays judges, members of parliament, they are meticulously observed by the society. This is a question from my deputy, and I kindly ask you to answer it. Thank you for this question. Mr. Vasilivanic, I would say that since the 24th of February, our life changes, and I would like to state that since the outbreak of the full-scale invasion, I have never left Ukraine but for professional activity, so all my trips were related to work. In May 2022, there was only my trip to Georgia for the meeting with my children, who since the 24th of February 2022 to the end of April stayed in Kherson under occupation. These were the most difficult time of my life. So I would like to say that I have already rejected all the vacations, all the trips, and now, since the full-scale invasion, I have never missed any sessions, and I have mentioned the business trip, when we went to Romania, when I missed the deadline. So it was officially signed by the head of the Verkhovna Rada. I was in the composition of delegation. So Vasily Ivanovich, I have already changed my life. I understand that we in Ukraine, we will have to do a lot of things to return at least to the state that we had before the full-scale invasion. If there are no other questions, we are ready to wrap up the interview, but at first we are giving you the possibility to announce your closing statement. Please, the floor is yours. In any case, from the very beginning, I would like to express my gratitude to our armed forces who defend us and who give us possibility and opportunity to work and to look into future. I would like to express my gratitude to the advisory group of experts, to esteemed international experts. This is the first trial for the selection procedure for the judges of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. We have changed the principle of selection procedure, and we have done it both for our citizens to have more trust to the procedure, not to have the procedure politically motivated. And also this gives us opportunity to be more open towards our partners including the European Union, that we want to join. And there is the process of negotiations is open, and me together with my committee, we implemented these main changes that were among the main statements for the negotiation of the accession of Ukraine into the European Union. So for me it's crucially important not to end this process. I understand that there are apprehensions, and this was the reason for my decision to nominate my candidacy for a position of judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, to make it confident in the fact that if I become a judge, it would give me possibility to explain all the decisions about how the different selection procedures were formed, and to continue these procedures to stabilize it, and so not to violate this procedure in future by some decisions of the Constitutional Court. So it is the reason that the Ukraine, I am sure, will become the full member of the European Union, and it will give us opportunity to restore and recover Ukraine and the city of Kherson that is under very difficult conditions, under constant shelling. And I think that it will help us to restore it and will provide the security guarantees for the future. Thank you so much, esteemed advisory group of experts. Thank you for your work. I understand that it's not an easy task for you. Thank you, Pavlo Vasilyevich, for your answers. And the interview of the AG with the candidate for the position of a judge for Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Pavlish Pavlo Vasilyevich, is closed. Thank you so much.